I'm Ruchira from Breakthrough Physical Therapy, and that's Karen. And today we're going to show you how to squat properly. So a lot of times, squat is a very easy exercise, but a lot of times what people do is they tend to go like this to pick things up, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, my knee is hurting, and I wonder why. So today we're going to see what's the correct squat form. So when you start a squat, you always need to see how the feet are aligned. So you always need to maintain this arch in your feet. Also, your knee and the hip should be aligned when you start the squat. So you feel these big bones here. These are your ASIS, and then the hip joint is right here. So before you start the squat, you always want to make sure that your hip and the knee are aligned together. Also, your second toe has to be parallel to each other. So you just right here. Okay, good. And then you want to maintain this arch in the foot. Okay. Now, when you start with your squat, go into like a little bit of a mini squat. Okay. Now you always want to make sure that your kneecap traces between your second and the third toe. So that's another thing you want to make sure. I'm going to show you some common mistakes that people do when they do a squat. One of the common mistakes that people do when they squat is they arch their back. Karen, do you want to demonstrate which is the wrong way to squat? Okay. Now, how you correct that is you take a stick. You want to take this one from you and hold it here. So you always want to make sure that your back sticks to the stick. So you don't want that back to arch when you're squatting. Okay, that's one of the very important things before you start squatting. You want to come on up. Another common mistake that people do when they squat is they tend to put their knees ahead of the toes. Do you want to demonstrate that? See, this puts a lot of strain on your knees. So what you want to do is you want to stick your hip back. So that's another common mistake that people do. Okay, come back. Another thing that people do is they lean excessively forward. So how you check that angle is you can take two sticks. You take one stick at her tibia and here. See, this is forming like an acute angle, and you really don't want to do that when you're squatting. So what you really want is your trunk to be parallel here, but without having that arch in the back. So at home, when you're trying to do a squat, always make sure you're taking a stick, you're putting it back, and your back is touching it. You want to stick your hip back first, and always make sure that your angle at the tibia and your trunk is kind of making that parallel angle. Another thing that you want to watch out when you're squatting is you don't want your knees to collapse in when you're squatting. So see how Karen's knees are collapsing in? So you definitely want to make sure that the kneecap tracks over your second and the third toe when you're doing the squat. Another good marker to know that you're doing a right squat is all your weight should be focused on the heel. So you want to go back into a squat. And you should be able to lift your toes up. If you're able to do that, that means you're doing the squat right. At the same time, when you're doing that squat, you don't want to fall backward. So you always want to counterbalance that with the right amount of that forward. Hope you guys know how to squat correctly. A lot of times if you start noticing any patterns in your squat, where your knees are going in or if your ankles are not letting you squat, you definitely need to see your physical therapist, and we'll definitely help you get back in shape. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it.